When you justify your actions to the blind, you are not communicating. You are bleeding. You are feeding their doubts with your energy. Silence is the only language the fool cannot twist, and the only weapon the wise need to carry. I want you to think about the last time you tried to change someone's mind about you. Maybe it was a partner, a boss, or a stranger in a comment section. You laid out the facts, you showed your logic, you exposed your soul. Did it work, or did they just look at you with that glazed, stubborn look of superiority? Here is the brutal truth you've been avoiding. You cannot talk your way into respect. Respect is not something you negotiate. It is something you command by saying nothing at all. We are told that we live in the information age. We are told that connection is the highest virtue. But look around. Are we connected, or are we just entangled? We are drowning in a sea of justifications. We are constantly curating, editing, and broadcasting our defense attorneys, hoping the jury will finally love us. It is exhausting, isn't it? The mental energy you burn trying to manage the perception of others. The replay loops in the shower, rehearsing arguments for fights that haven't happened yet. This isn't living. This is a perpetual trial where you are the accused, and you're the only one who cares about the verdict. Who told you that you owe the world an explanation? It wasn't your nature, it was the system. A culture that thrives on your insecurity needs you to be reactive, because a reactive man is a controllable man. To understand how weak words truly are, we have to look back to September 26, 1960, the first televised presidential debate in history, Richard Nixon versus John F. Kennedy. Nixon was prepared. He was a debater. He had the facts, the logic, the evidence. He spoke to the points. Kennedy? He just stood there. He was tanned, calm. He looked at the camera, not his opponent. Here is the glitch in the human matrix. People who listened on the radio, those who only heard the words, thought Nixon won. But the millions who watched on TV? They saw Kennedy as the winner by a landslide. Why? Because Nixon was trying to win an argument. Kennedy was embodying power. Nixon was the applicant. Kennedy was the CEO. The moment you try to prove you are competent, you have already admitted doubt. This phenomenon didn't start with television. It is an ancient law of power dynamics. The truly powerful do not react. They do not explain. They act. Or more terrifyingly, they do not act at all. Greece, 4th century BC. Alexander the Great, the most powerful man on earth, approaches Diogenes the cynic. Diogenes is a beggar. He lives in a clay wine jar. He owns nothing. Alexander stands over him and says, "Ask of me anything you desire, and I shall give it to you." Imagine the pressure. The king of the world offers you a blank check. Most men would stutter, explain their poverty, or beg for gold. Diogenes didn't even sit up. He looked at the emperor and said, "Yes, stand a little out of my sun." He didn't argue. He didn't validate Alexander's power. He simply set a boundary. Alexander was stunned. He reportedly said, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." Why? Because Diogenes possessed the one thing the emperor couldn't conquer: total autonomy. Let's strip this down to biology. Why is it so hard to shut up? When someone questions your integrity or insults your character, your amygdala, the lizard brain, perceives it as a physical threat. Adrenaline dumps into your blood. You enter fight or flight. In the modern world, fighting looks like sending a long text message at 2 a.m. Flight looks like over-apologizing to keep the peace. Both are reactions. Both are submissions. The Stoics, specifically Epictetus, warned us about this. He said, "If anyone can provoke you, you are their slave." Think about that. If a stranger's comment can force your fingers to type a response, do you own your mind, or do they? Most people live as the defendant. They walk through life assuming they are guilty until proven innocent. The sovereign operates differently. The sovereign assumes his value is self-evident. If you cannot see it, that is a failure of your perception, not a failure of his presentation. We tell ourselves we explain things to get closure or understanding. This is a lie. We explain things to manage anxiety. We are trying to control the other person's internal narrative. But you cannot control another mind. Attempting to do so is the definition of madness. Why is this so addictive? Why can't we just walk away? Psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered why in the 1930s. He put rats in a box with a lever. If the lever gave food every time, the rat pressed it only when hungry. But if the lever gave food randomly, sometimes yes, sometimes no, the rat became obsessed. It would press the lever until it died of exhaustion. Social interaction is a Skinner box. You over-explain yourself. That's pressing the lever. Sometimes they validate you, sometimes they ignore you. You are not communicating. You are a rat pressing a lever, hoping for a pellet of validation. The only way to win is to destroy the box. So what is the alternative? If we don't defend ourselves, won't people think we are weak? No, silence creates a vacuum. And human beings are terrified of vacuums. When you stop explaining, the other person is left with only their own projection. They start to fill the silence with their own doubts. This is the law of non-reaction. When you refuse to react, you break the cycle of energy transfer. You become a mirror. They scream, and they see only their own distortion reflected back at them. True power isn't having the last word. True power is not needing it. Imagine a lion explaining itself to a sheep. The concept is absurd. The lion exists. That is enough. Your actions are the evidence. Your character is the testimony. If someone accuses you of being lazy, do not list your tasks. Work harder. If someone accuses you of being uncaring, do not write a poem. Be kind. Let your reality bully their illusions. Psychologists call this the gray rock method when dealing with narcissists or toxic people. You become as uninteresting as a gray rock. They poke you, you say, okay. They insult you, you say, I hear you. They demand an explanation, you say, I've said all I need to say. You deny them the emotional fuel they crave. How do we apply this today? Implement the 24-hour rule. When you feel that spike of cortisol, that urge to set the record straight, wait 24 hours. Draft the text if you must. Write the email. Scream it into a pillow. But do not hit send. After 24 hours, the chemical storm in your brain will subside. You will look at that draft and realize, this sounds desperate. You will realize that the most powerful response was the one you never sent. Ask yourself, who are you trying to impress? Why does their opinion weigh more than your own self-knowledge? If you know you are honest, why do you need them to know it? The need to be understood is a childish need. The adult accepts that to be great is to be misunderstood. This is not about becoming a hermit. It is about becoming selective. You have a limited amount of life force. Every explanation is a leak in your tank. Plug the leaks, keep your counsel, let them be wrong about you, let them tell stories. Let them be the hero of their own delusional narrative. You are the sovereign of your own existence. A king does not step off the throne to argue with a peasant in the mud. Stay on the throne. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers. So here's your mission for the week. The next time you're misunderstood, do nothing. Feel the burn of the injustice. Feel the urge to correct it, and let it pass. Watch what happens to the other person when they realize you are no longer playing their game. Observe the power shift. If you are ready to stop explaining and start living. Like this video. It helps the algorithm find others who are ready to wake up. And tell me in the comments, what is the one thing you are tired of explaining to people? Let's bury it there together. Stay free.